Hello, everybody. This is our final show in the month of October, the Halloween show. I may be the only one who dressed up, but that doesn't stop us from having a great show today, as this is Magnum Matty B. And
My Bob Ross costume is currently en route, so I won't have it for the show, but I'll have it by the time I need it again. So
oh, perfect. And
I'm I'm wearing a T-shirt from Spring Fling when I was in college, like my senior year. So I'm pretending I'm 21.
see, you
I'm
are a
21
college
for
student. I'm 21. That's a good one. Thought you were gonna dress up as a paramedic. That would have been funny.
Well, I'm not a paramedic, but no, because all
Or
my stuff
EMT.
has where I work on it.
Oh, don't want to give away. I feel that, but we have another tweet cap. We got Ryan and Fresh Faces here, and let's do it off right. This is show 282, so let's keep it going. All right, I think it was quite a week for everybody, quite a month, and let's end it off right by talking about the crazy things that happen in our world. And first, ironically, started with a sports story. So this is a basketball show, and next week we'll have this basketball show for you, an exclusive productive conversations basketball show. But this point, I want to talk about something I think everybody can have an opinion on. The name is James Harden. James Harden, for the past, he's been in the league since 2008. This man
he's done all the
has,
time.
this man has had quite the career. And of course, he starts this particular season with, what's the word I'm looking for? More controversy. So first, he tries to get traded in the offseason. They aren't able to make it happen. James Harden gets a little salty. He doesn't show up to media day before the season, preseason media day. He doesn't show up to practice at all. The Sixers start their season tonight at the time of this recording, playing the Milwaukee Bucks, and he is not there right now. He is not playing. So allegedly, he tried to board the plane. You know what? I'll skip practice. I'll just show up for the games because I'm
Well, he
James
was at
Harden.
practices. He was at some of the practices. Like it's even dumber than this. So originally, when he was a Sixer, I mean, I'll get into this a little more because about this, but like he thought he was going to make more money, so he thought he was going to get a max deal from Morey, and then I guess he got told he wasn't. So then he thought he was going to Houston, but then eBay said, "I'm not having this motherfucker here,"
Yeah,
and so that closed
that's
up.
the head coach.
So
of
then
the
he opted into his
Rockets.
contract and said, "I'm going to demand a trade," and then nobody wants it.
That's right. There was all these rumors that he allegedly was going to go to the Clippers, but obviously that hasn't happened. Again, he tried to board the plane and they wouldn't allow it. They just straight up wouldn't allow it. And at this time, be it as it will, according to a report from Adrian Wojnarowski today, the NBA is looking into if Philadelphia and James Harden violated new player participation policy. So, regardless, James Harden. Thing is, this man, I think we can come to the conclusion this man is very full of himself. He's not a team player, and somebody we have complained about often on this show. People have complained about him all over the country, and people will still complain about him until he retires. And look at where we're at now. He's not even allowed to play, and heck, the NBA might punish and hold the Sixers accountable. But it's just so funny and crazy that James Harden himself doesn't seem to be held accountable anywhere he goes. He gets himself out of Houston to go to Brooklyn. He then gets himself out of Brooklyn to go to Philly. All this is not good enough. He's trying to now join another team, a Clippers team that, if they could stay healthy with Kawhi, Paul George, even though at their advanced age, they might be something. But of course, we'll go more in depth with that next week. But regarding James Harden now and where this all is going to go, do you think James Harden will finally be held accountable for his actions? Instead of going to Vegas on a off day or a road trip, maybe he practices with the team. Maybe he will show up in the playoffs for once. I don't know. It's a big mystery with James Harden. And I have a feeling we were going to talk about him a lot anyways. But at this point, what would you do if you're anybody in charge of an NBA team and James Harden wants to just do what he wants?
Well, I
Okay.
think it depends on who, if you need James Harden, more than anything. You talk about not being held accountable. If the team needs you, then that's the only accountability you need. I mean, I know that a basketball purist or a straight up basketball fan won't want to hear that, and I think we may hear the opposite opinion of that. But that's just how business works. If they need James Harden, then they'll play James Harden. Now, apparently the 76ers don't because they didn't even let him get on the plane. But I don't know. I mean, obviously, if he broke league rules, then yeah, he'll probably be held accountable for breaking league rules. But there's no real downside for him, to be honest with you, Matt. Like, what is the downside? What does he lose?
Oh, I got a lot. So first off, James Harden is the GOAT quitter. He is the GOAT at it, at quitting on teams. There is nobody who will ever be better than James Harden when it comes to quitting.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter.
Right. But the things that matter is, so there's two things to it. Part of the reason James Harden has to try to figure out how to play is because of part of the new rules, the Sixers can decide when he gets a free agency. If he basically sat the whole season and didn't play, the Sixers can say, actually, no, you're not allowed to be a free agent
Right.
until we decide to allow you to be.
They
So
can
that's
push his
the
contract.
issue.
Yeah.
Right. The other thing is the reason the Sixers are saying you can't come to the games, at least my guess is because James Harden has made it very clear, I'm going to make this as uncomfortable and painful as the Sixers as possible. So that's his actual quote. And like we saw when he was in Houston, he was fat in Houston and he sucked for a while and he was detrimental to the team. And the problem in Philly is they have to figure out what they're doing with Embiid. And if Harden comes in and just is terrible and ruining it, Embiid's like, I don't want to deal with this. I want out too. But the answer to this is, and this is if I'm a GM who's looking to trade for, but let me rephrase this. If I'm a GM, and this won't happen because Daryl Morey will tell all of them to fuck off, is James Harden's a distressed asset. He is an asset where you're trading. It's basically like a bad contract where the question isn't what am I giving you to get James Harden services. It's what are you giving me to take that problem off of your hands? What do I get for dealing with this dickhead? Like, why? Like, the idea that, like, the Clippers are like, oh, we're going to give you, like, an unprotected pick and a pick swap and Terrence Smith. That's asinine. I would give you a highly protected first and maybe a pick swap, and you can have some salary filler if you're lucky. Like, I'm not giving you – and you better be giving me a –
Yeah, so obviously I don't follow – I'm not on the NBA shows. So I know James Harden from much earlier in his career. I pretty much stopped paying attention to James Harden in Houston. I'm just going to throw that out there right now. Last I checked, James Harden was actually a solid basketball player. If that's no longer the case, if he's really not good, then honestly, they'll probably just let him go away. He doesn't want to play. They don't want him to play. So he'll just stop playing basketball. He'll just not be a basketball player anymore. And they'll figure out the logistics of that later, but they're not going to play him. He's not going to show up to anything. So it'll be like a weird quiet quitting of the NBA where he just quietly stops being a member of the 76ers lineup, right? I don't think that's true. Again, someone will probably correct me. I'm going to venture a guess based on my limited knowledge, that James Harden still is a value added to at least some teams. I don't know if that's the Clippers, but the idea that any trade will be done for any basketball player in any professional athlete, and the trade is going to be, I'll take care of your problem for you if you give me something, is not true. No one will trade for James Harden if they don't need James Harden. So if James Harden is no good, then he's just going to go away. And honestly, he's got a lot of money, right? He's got tons of money. Also, he's one of the names, like we could say what we want about him. He's a name that people know. He will absolutely find something else to do. And again, quiet quitting. I think this would be the first public display of quiet quitting in the NBA, where he's on the team, but he doesn't play, and they don't let him leave because they don't want him to be a free agent. And then eventually he'll just say, well, then I'm done. But I think ultimately, if there is a trade to be had, he'll probably work that trade out. And that trade will be with a team that wants him. I don't think that they're going to he's not going to find himself in another team that doesn't want to use James Harden. I just don't see him as being that damaged on the court. I understand like his antics and his lack of commitment is a problem for fans and probably management alike. But I think he's still probably good enough when he's playing basketball, which doesn't sound like is very often, that a team could find use for him and give him what he wants. Now, I don't know what he wants. It sounds like he doesn't know what he wants, other than maybe to not play as much basketball in general. And so maybe he's hoping that no one picks him up so he can leave. But I don't think that he's going to get traded. It's not going to be who's stuck holding the James Harden at the end of the trade deadline. I think if he goes anywhere, it's going to be someone who actually has an idea about how they can use James Harden and get him out of a position he clearly wants out of.
Well, okay. I do, to be fair, like you said, you're not a big NBA guy. There's a lot of different pushbacks. So one of the big things is like James Harden's not going to go away because James Harden has made it very clear that he's going to be a pain in the ass to this organization. And he did it all throughout the offseason. He was in China with like telling a random camp, like, I hate Daryl Morey, he's a liar.
The NBA, that's a pain for the organization. If one of their top players says, I'm done playing basketball now, that's a pain. He's not going to do that. That's a forever pain.
James Harden isn't done playing basketball. He wants somebody else to pay him $200 million, which isn't going to happen because he's not worth that money. The other thing to this is because of who the GM is not going to let an asset walk away just to waive him. They're not just going to waive him to let him go sign something. They're going to get something for him. That's the other thing. Now, to the third point of what I said about somebody taking a distressed asset, literally happens all the time. There's minor examples and there's major examples. For example, Oklahoma City or the Spurs have done this, where they'll take a player back in order to clear.
He's too expensive for that. I get what you're saying, but James Harden is still got to be one of the more well-paid athletes. And I know this because as much as I don't follow basketball, I know who James Harden is. I know about the James Harden drama.
Contract, he's on a 1 year. His deal is worth $36 million.
That's what I'm saying. So he's not cheap. And again, that's 1 year. What do you get for 1 year? To me, this is not some bench guy that you're like, well, all right, we'll take this, jerk off your hands and you give us something. This is James Harden. That A comes with a price tag. And B, as we pointed out, he doesn't like a lot of the teams. If he doesn't like your team, then you're going to pay this guy to not play. Like this won't change if he goes to another team that doesn't want him. So the idea they're going to take all of that money and just eat it. I don't know how good the Sixers are. If the Sixers are, have picks worth something, then maybe. I don't know. I can't speak to that, but
it's because there's so few teams that would trade for him because of his history with basically knifing them in the back at the first opportunity. It limits the teams that would give assets for him because he is a distressed asset driving his price down. And as any GM, you want to get the maximum amount for your trade. But there's no reason for somebody to trade a lot for him because he's a bigger pain in the ass to you right now than he will be to me later. So I don't need to give you.
If he's not worth it, no one's going to trade for him.
But to think if I could get James Harden for a highly protected first and some salary filler or something where I'm not giving up a lot, it may be worth teams. But that's not the price that Daryl Morey is asking for.
Millions of dollars for nothing.
It's also if James Harden actually will give you an effort once he gets there, you got to trade to the New Orleans Pelicans.
$36 million to get nothing but a protected pick. That's $36 million for a protected pick. Again, not a big basketball guy, but no. That doesn't the math is not mathing on that. So if that's all he's worth right now, then he's not going anywhere.
Right. He's not going anywhere because nobody wants to give the price that Daryl Morey is asking because James Harden is not worth that price.
Yeah.
So the problem is they're going to have to sell him for pennies on the dollar because one, he's a pain in the ass and nobody trusts him not to stab them in the back in 6 months. Two, he's not the James Harden from even 2 years ago when he was in Brooklyn. And three, he's just a dickhead. He's a bigger pain in the ass I would rather sit here and wait. Let's say I wanted James Harden. I would rather torpedo their season with James Harden in the Sixers and get him for a lower price. Or I would rather torpedo their season and get a better price for Joel Embiid later. Like it's how much can I fuck up this team to get a potentially better player? Because I would rather have Joel Embiid than James Harden. Not that I think
all of this revolves around this idea that James Harden wants to continue to play basketball with any real serious, in any real serious way. From everything I've read about James Harden the past 2 years, nothing makes me think that that's true.
Well, he does.
Nothing makes you think that he actually cares at all if he ever plays basketball again. As long as he finds a way to make money, which I promise you he can do, he doesn't care. So the idea that you can get him for cheaper is probably not accurate. Because, you can physically pay him less money, but he won't play for you. We've seen it. He just won't show up. We talk about this. Kyrie Irving had a similar deal with just decided he was not going to play anymore. And there's really nothing that can be done about that when a player decides that they have enough money and they don't like you, and so they're not going to play. You can't do anything. You can't be like, well, I'm going to pick him up later. If he doesn't want to play, you won't.
Right,
you know what I mean? He doesn't need the money. He cannot play and be fine.
It's basically how painful can they make this for James Harden later? Because depending on how
if he retires, then there's no amount of pain at all.
He's not going to retire because there's league rules about how you can retire and when you can come back out of retirement and how that would probably affect. If he just said, I'm retiring today, and he was clear, and then next offseason he said, oh yeah, I actually want to come back, I'm pretty sure that would violate league rules, and it would be similar to the Sixers being able to say, no, you actually can't.
Yeah, but he's got lawyers. He's got lawyers, and if they can't fight it, then he just won't come back next year.
Right, but I think there's whatever. So ultimately, whatever happens with this is there's going to be a rule in the next CBA called the James Harden rule directly because of this situation,
and
it's going to allow.
I don't know. I think that we're putting way too much stock in the idea that James Harden, who has proved over the last 2 years, doesn't care that much about playing basketball, is going to do anything to protect his ability to play basketball in a league that sounds like they don't like him that much. Talking to you guys, sounds like the fans don't like him that much. So nobody wants him there, and he doesn't really want to be there. Sounds a lot to me like he's just going to stop playing basketball. That's what it sounds like to me. I don't see why he would keep playing.
$200 million contract. That's what
he could get that from something. I'm at $200 million, but he can get millions of dollars from something that isn't the NBA. Honestly, it'd be a lot less work too. Be a ton less.
But I don't think he wants to do it playing basketball. He wants to play it his way, and he wants the $200 million, and it's just not going to happen because he's not worth it.
Then he will leave. I'm telling you, he's not going to sit around and take less. He would have done that already. If he was going to play for less, if he was going to do the right thing, I'll call it the right thing. I think that's fair.
He already did take less. Part of what happened was after he got traded to Philly, he signed for a 2-year deal that was less than the max that he could sign in order for Philly to sign other players. And that's part of why him opting in made no sense, because it basically gave them control over him, because he basically said, I'm going to opt in so it's easier for you to trade me instead of I think he was a restricted free agent. And it's mind numbing the idea.
How many minutes has James Harden had in tonight's game?
He's not playing.
He wasn't allowed on the.
That's the point. You said that he did it already. He didn't do it already. He wasn't a team player because he's not playing on the team right now. Right now, we can turn on the TV. It's right there. He's not on it.
Last season.
Last season, but that's last season. This is this season. He's not a team player this season. So you
can't
control someone
for the last 3 years. That's why nobody wants.
I'm just saying you can't control someone who doesn't care. As soon as they don't care, as soon as the player's like, I don't care what you do, I'm only doing it my way, or I'm just simply not doing it. You lose. Doesn't matter what contract you have, you lose all power. And we see this. The only sport that hasn't figured this out yet, it seems to be baseball. They seem to think that baseball, the league, can control these players, and maybe the players aren't popular enough that they have a little more control. In every other league of professional sport, maybe not the NHL, the players are in charge. We could pretend however we want to pretend. The people don't show up to see the NBA. They show up to see the players. These players have got more money than anyone could ask for. If he's decided he's done playing this season because he doesn't like what he was given, he's done playing this season. I'll go back to Kyrie. Obviously, not as controversial as Kyrie, so that's a good thing for the Sixers. They have that going for them. But other than that, like he did the same thing. He was like, "No, I'm not." And then eventually got to the point where they asked him not to come back because of some of the things he was doing. But like, you know what I mean? If a player is out, a player's out. I just heard a story about Gronk. He did the same thing. He's like, "Oh no, I'm going to retire," and they're like, "All right, we won't trade you then." And then he just didn't retire because he didn't want to go. So he basically,
You talk about
even
with
if
the
they
Lions.
knew he was lying, yeah, even if they knew that he was lying, the options were we lose Gronk or we don't. The trade is not happening because he was willing to just not play football if the options were be a Detroit Lion or retire. He was willing to be like, "All right, I'm done." If Harden is willing to not get on the plane and not go to practice, there's no amount of math, there's no amount of backroom dealing that's going to make him start playing basketball.
Yeah, well then that's how his career ends.
Yeah, probably.
Which I'm going to be honest, like would be a fitting end for James Harden because he is, and I will repeat this again, the GOAT when it comes to quitting.
Yeah, well there you go. Quiet quitting of the NBA. I like it. I think there'll be all kinds of Washington Post think pieces about quiet quitting in professional sports.
They're too bad been yelling at college kids about anti-Semitism or something.
Yeah, James Harden is no doubt an enigma. We'll see how this all unfolds. I'm sure we will update this story when we meet again for NBA next week. But until then, James Harden, whether he cares or not, will be a fascinating 30 for 30. And I
Good
guess
luck
he
for
really
the 76ers.
Their process is about to come to an end. We love it. Absolutely love it. All right. So, all right. I've been looking forward to discussing on this show this list that was released. So, last week there was a video of a woman who was about to go on a first date with somebody to the Cheesecake Factory. She was so personally offended by it. She makes a video that goes viral, and it leads to an ultimate discussion. Where should one take someone on a first date? Now, dating is very prominent in a discussion here on this podcast, and why don't we continue it with this? You guys, Faces, you are currently not single. Ryan, you're married. I'm single,
Yeah.
depending on the day. No, just kidding. I'm single now, but maybe that changes someday soon. But this list goes viral. It's huge, and I'm very interested by it. And I want to break this down with you guys. So this is a list that I guess that some women made. That again,
a woman, correct?
I
Wait,
think
can I get a clarification?
Women. Okay,
can I get a clarification?
Women.
The thing that kicked this off was a woman got mad that her date was taking her to the Cheesecake Factory. So instead of being an adult and having a conversation about it, she decided to blast it on the internet.
Yes.
Is that what happened?
Yes, and it led to other people coming together to make a list.
You must be new here, Fresh Faces. This is how the internet works.
But no, I know. But first off, if I'm going to take somebody to a Cheesecake Factory, it's because they fucking like the Cheesecake Factory.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, clearly, this is a terrible idea.
She clearly had a problem with the Cheesecake Factory.
You don't just decide, unless it's a spur of the moment thing.
Well, so I do have questions, Matt, and you may not have an answer to this, but I do want to ask. These are two important questions before we get too deep into it. Question number one: is this a first date?
Yes, specifically first date. Here's a list of places women absolutely.
Question number two. Question number two, real quick. In the case of this woman, is she over the age of 21?
She looks it. By the way, but this was a polled apparently. Okay, this was a polled question.
No, I got that. I just wanted to have that info before.
Well, the other comment is she over 25?
No, she looks. She definitely. I would say she looks like she's in her mid-20s. You want me to pull it up? What she looks like, real quick?
No, that's fine. I trust you. I just wanted to get that info for after we hear the list. But I do want to hear the list because I think it's important that we share the list with everybody listening.
Yes, but she definitely has to be in at least in her mid-20s. This woman who started off.
Yeah.
So number one, Here is a list of places women absolutely refuse to go on a first date to. And thank you to the ladies who reached out to me and helped me on my list. This is the person who came with it together. I believe
Yeah.
it Ad Duval promo. That's who compiled together, I guess. So here we go.
Shout out.
This is the list. Number 1, Cheesecake Factory. What's wrong
Of
with
course.
Cheesecake Factory? Honestly. I mean, for a first date, it has a nice
Well, what-
ambiance. It has a good menu.
No. I mean,
Yeah,
I can't. So I
why
can't
not?
sit here and say I've never taken a date to a Cheesecake Factory, but like you need to be a teenager, really.
I was a
Cheesecake
teenager.
Factory to me, once you get into like your early mid-20s, certainly the Cheesecake Factory is no longer a viable date option, like really at all, and it's certainly not a first date destination. I am with them on this, other than of course everything's subjective. If you really like cheesecake, then go to Cheesecake Factory. But I'm saying personally, I actually do see this one. I think that but I do want to make a clarification. If you're like 17 listening to this and you're like, oh, I can't go to, yes, you can. All right. If you're 17 going to the Cheesecake Factory, if you're 16 going to the Cheesecake Factory, that's a good first date at 16. You've done well. You made a good choice. It's got the nice ambiance, like Matt said. You have the cheesecake. Listen, if you're youngin', absolutely. I think once you get a little older, you do have to step into a different realm, though, and leave the Cheesecake Factory like training wheels in the garage, personally.
So you say no to cheesecake because it's too what? Amateurish, too childish?
I do. Yes. I do think that it's a good first date when you're starting, like when you're young, right? But as you get older, everyone's taste changes. Everyone's got everyone's got some work. Everyone's, I mean, like it's a little different, I think.
So you were
That
with
makes
this girl
sense.
who put this guy on blast and embarrassed him. Why are you taking me to cheesecake?
Well, no, I didn't say you should put them. I didn't think you should put it online, but I just the sentiment behind the thought, I'm agreeing with. Yes.
Okay. Do you feel the same way, Faces?
I think like it to me, it is inconceivable to go on a date with somebody where they would be so upset that they would blast it to the world rather than having an adult conversation. No,
Yeah, but that's
like,
different
be-
than Cheesecake
Right,
Factory being good or bad.
Like,
Two things can be true.
I haven't been to the Cheesecake Factory in a while, but like if someone told me on a first date, which I'm probably never gonna have again, is I really wanted to go to the Cheesecake Factory, I'll say fuck it. You want to go to the Cheesecake Factory? Like it's whatever you want. It's more about making sure that they're happy than it is that whatever.
Right.
Like if that's what they want to do, let them do it.
But obviously
if they
she
don't
didn't
like
want that.
Yeah, she didn't like him enough to care. I think she didn't like him
be
enough.
A Cheesecake Factory.
I think this woman
could
clearly
be.
used this guy to get a free meal, and she was upset.
But I don't know. Cheesecake Factory is good food. I don't think it's a food issue.
It's
really
just
don't.
like
I don't.
It's just like it's like Creed. Like I just don't like you.
Yeah, exactly. Cheesecake Factory is the Creed of like the slightly higher end fast foody, not fast food, but like Applebee's. Like
casual
Cheesecake Factory
fine
is better
dining.
than Applebee's.
Casual fine
There you go.
dining.
Casual fine dining. That's exactly right. It's better than Applebee's, which I think is
number
also
two.
It's
number two. Applebee's is number 2.
I was like, I did read the list before this. I was like, I think it's on the list.
I think Applebee's does have like relatively cheap drinks.
Yes.
So
but that's not a first date location.
It depends on how your date is or how you are as a person. It is totally possible that people could go to Applebee's to get fucked up.
I think you know what I think? I think Applebee's could be part of your first date plan, but like you've gone to dinner and now you just want drinks and there's an Applebee's nearby. If this is the scenario, there has to be this scenario. You can't seek out in the Applebee's. But if there's a nearby Applebee's at the location that isn't Applebee's, which you bought your food at, then yeah, I say you want to keep, get a few more drinks, keep the conversation flowing. You go sit at the bar at the Applebee's, not the booth, Matt. They have a bar for adults. And you go to the adult Applebee's bar. And you order that Bahama Mama because you deserve
Bahama Mama. I don't remember. I remember. I've definitely gone with. Last time I was in Applebee's I was in college, just with my two friends.
I was in college too.
And I had.
I've never done a first date at Applebee's.
Neither. I will. By the way, I want to say.
I have gotten drinks though.
I will say I have had a first date at Cheesecake Factory for a relationship that lasted 3 weeks, And what's funny about this was like, I think 22, 23, around there.
Well, that's why I only lasted 3 weeks.
Well,
I'm messing with you. But
anyways, but what's funny about this is I actually met the parents before. I met the parents on the first date.
You met her parents at Cheesecake Factory?
No. I picked her up and it's like, why don't you come in to meet my parents?
Oh, okay.
I was like, okay.
Wow.
What am I gonna say? No.
Well, you know what? I think actually,
and then we went to Cheesecake
Factory. That's even, because you took her to Cheesecake Factory, which is a no-no. I think at 23, but she made you meet her parents upon meeting her, and that's also a no-no. So I think the two wrongs.
Apparently,
actually,
the father liked me,
out.
so it worked out. And, to continue with Applebee's, the 3 is Chili's. I don't even think I've been to a Chili's before. Chili's.
I've never been to a Chili's.
Yeah, I mean,
Chili's and Applebee's are the same thing.
Yeah.
Chili's, Applebee's.
Yeah, I have to think. Yeah, well, Ruby Tuesday, I feel like it's a little bit nicer than Chili's.
Yeah, Ruby Tuesday is nicer.
That feels more like Cheesecake Factory.
Ruby Relaxers. Number 4 is a funny one.
Cheesecake Factory.
There was the Ruby Tuesdays up by college, and that was a good place to go.
Yeah, right on Bloomfield Ave. Well, that's why
it's important, though. We have to keep stating. College.
Yeah, no, a lot of this is like in late teens, early 20s, like when you're in that college. Because like when
I'm almost 30. Don't do it now. Now at 30, you can't do that.
Let's go to Chili's.
I used to go to Blueback and go to Cheesecake Factory.
I don't think I take my wife to Chili's on like as a date. Like if we're going somewhere else,
we're not even. This isn't even.
There's a Chili's, maybe.
Yeah.
but like I don't have to impress anybody. I'm already married. I've done all the hard work. but yeah, even I would be like, I don't think we're doing Chili's. Yeah, I think that all of these first ones are very similar in terms of like they're kind of the casual dining. Some are a little bit nicer than others, but they're all kind of the same vibe.
Right. Number 4.
I think it's also a generational thing. Like I think dating when we were like, if you were our age when like in the early 2000s, I think this might be a little bit of a different list. Because I think those places were held up in a little bit, like Applebee's definitely was held up in a higher regard
in like 2005. 2005, that's when the time to go to Applebee's. It's called
when you're near your family.
I think it would have been an interesting like idea then to talk to somebody who was like dating around that time and what they thought about this.
Yeah, I think you could convince me that maybe Cheesecake and Ruby Tuesday, but I don't think Applebee's is ever a solid first date idea. I don't. I'm be honest with you. I think that you should never start your first date. No drinks yet because you've just started the date. That should never be in a booth at Applebee's.
You ever see Talladega Nights? Have you seen Talladega Nights? Yes. So that's where they wound up in Applebee's, right?
Yeah, but there wasn't a date. First date,
I know.
That was like a family thing to get
exactly.
Thrown out. That was like,
and he got thrown out. But number 4 is controversial,
which happens a lot at Applebee's.
Number 4 is very controversial because I feel like people actually do this. Chipotle.
Mm-hmm.
Now, somebody used to say, as a first date. I think Chipotle.
Walk me through that, man.
So Chipotle, I think, is for people who are horny and need to meet in public first before they have some fun, if you know what I mean. You know, they say Netflix and you know how they say Netflix and chill. They say Chipotle and meaningless sex. That's where you
because if you're eating Chipotle, you're like bloated after that shit.
You could just get like a bowl. You could get something light at Chipotle.
Yeah, but if you're going to something light at Chipotle, it's not worth going to Chipotle.
Well, I would argue that the hooking up afterward would make it worth it. But I've not heard this. I'm too far removed from the dating scene to know that Chipotle is like a weird like cruise spot for Tinder folk. But if you're looking to actually date somebody, then don't go to Chipotle. I think that's a totally fair thing to say. To me, that is akin to going to McDonald's, which I think is also on the list. To me, it is akin to that. I mean, yes, the food is better. I love Chipotle. This is not an indictment of Chipotle. This is just an indictment of people who, because what are you going to do? You're going to sit there? You can't talk in a Chipotle. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to get to know someone. deeply into Chipotle.
You end up with a Chipotle like in the middle of the date, like similar to the drinks.
Right. If you went out
Applebee's,
for
you kinda
drinks
end up
or
there.
something, yeah, and you need some food. Yes, I don't think Chipotle should be where you start the date. Also, probably shouldn't be where you end the date. Maybe somewhere in the middle, depending on how long the date goes.
How about this one? After Chipotle, and Stephen A particularly likes this and was mad this was on the list. Olive Garden.
Mm.
Was that a place that you take someone on a first date?
Actually,
Olive
there where.
Garden?
Which one is when you're here? Your family is that Olive Garden?
That's Olive Garden. Yeah,
I said that for Applebee's. I don't know. I kind of put that with the Ruby Tuesday and Cheesecake Factory in that with a younger person in particular, I think is a good shout. Olive Garden shows you're classy, but you're on a budget.
Is it really?
I just think that the budget.
Would you consider
Yeah,
Olive
that's what I'm
Garden a
saying.
classy place?
No, but if you have no money, it is.
Right.
If the options are Olive Garden or Applebee's, go to Olive Garden. But that's what I'm saying.
Unlimited breadsticks.
You hit a threshold, and suddenly like Olive Garden goes from like the best option you could have to one of the worst. And it has to do again once you've got like your own space or whatever. Like if you live alone, like if you have an apartment or whatever, like not alone, you have roommates or whatever. But if you have an apartment and you go to Olive Garden, that's a tough one for me to wrap my head around. Unless someone asks to go to Olive Garden, some people really like those breadsticks. I'm actually not.
I haven't been there in a long
obsessed
time.
with them.
Yeah, I think the Olive Garden kind of falls into the same place as the Cheesecake Factory.
I agree.
Like it's it's one of those things where it makes sense when you're younger, but if they really want to go, just fucking go. Like it's not. Like,
so Stephen A. can continue to take his dates
to
the Olive Garden without worrying too much. I think that's what we're saying. Stephen A. doesn't have to change his dating behavior.
Number 6 was the movies. I agree with that. You can't have a conversation or imagine if it's bad. You always associate this movie with a bad date. I've never been on a movie date before.
So I think a movie date is fine, but you need to have something at some point, either before or after the movie. I think it's good actually to see a movie during, because you could save a lot of money. Like let's just be clear. You could save money on a movie date. If you go grab like coffee or drinks before and then go see a movie, that's good. You know what I mean? I'm fine with the movie date, but I do think you're right. The talking thing's hard. And so you need to have some kind of time where you guys can talk and get to know one another, which you can't do in a movie theater. So it can't be the only thing, but I think you can build a date around a movie. I really do. A first date in particular, I think you can build around a movie.
Easy to do. I totally agree.
Young people obviously, but even older people, I think you can.
I will say number 7 is pretty. If you actually see this, what's wrong with you on a date? Your house. You can't have your first date at your house. Like, come on.
Absolutely.
Really?
I had with my current girlfriend. I had it at her house. It partly because of how things were with our jobs
COVID and stuff. Oh, okay.
Well, with our jobs, and also her dog had some medical issues, so it was harder for her to go out and do things. So it made more sense for me to just go over there. But like, it's not it's not like, oh, we're just gonna hook up and stuff. Like, we had planned to have food and stuff, and we were gonna just like watch some movies and just hang out and like get to talk to each other. Like, it's not. I feel like the connotation to it is worse than it is, because like you could easily do something there. Like, it's not like to say that you would never have a date there. It depends on what the purpose is. It depends. Look, people are busy. Circumstances happen. Sometimes it's just the easiest thing.
Well, so I'll say this. I think that this is a little bit to do, and we have 3 dudes on this podcast, right?
True.
I feel like personally, if I was if a girl invited me over to her house for a first date, I would never in my brain think of any possibility where I would end up like drugged or hurt in any particular way. If you're a girl and a guy says, come to mine, I'll make dinner or whatever, I don't care how good. It could be Mario Batali. That's a chef, right? Yeah.
I don't think that's a good example, Ryan. Don't say him. Don't say him. He got.
Oh, you're right. No. Jose Andres. Sorry, Jose Andres. He's a chef and he's a great person. He does a lot of great work with his food kitchens across the world. Even if he invites you and you know he's a great chef, yeah, you can't do that, right? You cannot just go to a dude's house when you don't know this person much at all. So that's why I think it's on the list. Obviously, this list was made by all women, and I think that I can see where they're going with that. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know this person, and that just feels dangerous to go to someone's house that you don't know at all by yourself. You know what I mean? Personally, I think I could see that.
Now, one thing that this makes me laugh. I agree with this. No fast food chains.
Yeah,
But what makes me laugh,
of
and
course.
this is just a different time because my aunt and uncle were married 30 years, and their first date was Wendy's drive-through. But again, that's the 70s.
Hold on. I think there's also another caveat to this. If you're
First
not
date.
in America, like McDonald's has a different connotation than like Indian shit. Like it's like a high end, like important place in like India.
I don't
So
think
it
it's
does
ever
get-
high end, but it is different. Yeah.
No,
But
I
in
think they go in
India,
like suits and shit.
You know, I'm going to go the other way with this, but I'm going to agree with you. If you're dating someone from another country and they haven't been to McDonald's, no. If they've not been
surprise!
to McDonald's, I bet you a lot of folks who are from other countries. I mean, yes, they have McDonald's in other countries, but as Fresh Faces pointed out, it's very different. Like the food is different, the ambiance, it's all different. And the OG burger place, that's America's McDonald's. So I think that you could probably get away with taking someone to McDonald's specifically. I'm not saying
Not
all
Burger
fast
King or
food.
Wendy's,
No,
McDonald's.
not Wendy's. No, McDonald's
The only
specifically
reason
is a big enough brand that if they're not from America, it's kind of like one of those things that you have to do, right? Like, oh, I want to get a cheeseburger at McDonald's, and you could be the person who provides that for them. So I think in that one very specific situation, that could be a cool first date, especially because then you can start talking about where they're from. Like, there's a lot of ways to work that angle, but I do think that for most people, even kids, even young people, save your money and go to Cheesecake Factory. Do not go to McDonald's. Do not go to
A
Wendy's.
Big Mac.
Do not
Your
go to those
first date,
places.
you eat Big Macs
I mean,
together.
Matt, could you imagine if we're like, let's go to Dutchess on a first date to someone? We're both from Norwalk, so we know what that is. Like, in Dutchess is not as good food. It's nicer than a regular fast food place, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Dude, you're right. You're right. And I'm gonna put these two together. Buffalo Wild
Sure.
Wings at a Wingstop as our first date.
Those are very different.
Okay.
Yeah, like I think Buffalo Wild Wings you could do because it's more about what you're going there. Like if there's some type of event happening,
A
like
game is on. Yeah.
Yeah, like you'll go to Wild Wings to watch like
No, it's hard for me to watch a game and
the
go on a date.
NCAA finals or like Game 7 or something, or like some big fight or like a soccer
Yeah,
game.
no, I
like,
actually
you can
agree.
go for like an experience. Yeah, it's not like I don't think you can do that at Wingstops because I've literally never had Wingstop. But like
Wingstop
Buffalo
is-
Wild Wings, you go for like the experience of being.
Have the
They
They
waiters
kind of have
dressed
to
up as
be a
refs.
fan, though. They have to be a
it's not-
fan. If you
it's not for the
decide I want to watch Game 7
Oh,
and I want to go on a first date, so you pick
that's a
Buffalo
tough
Wild
one.
Wings.
I'm picking
If
Game
she's
7.
not aware of the, I'm saying if she's not aware of the Game 7, and she thinks you're just going on a date, and then you show up at Buffalo Wild Wings because the game you want to watch is on, you're going to never hear from that date ever again. But I'm saying if you're going on a first date with someone who you know, like, I mean, if you know, a lot of people are dating online, so if you've already messaged like, oh, I'm a Yankees fan too, right? If you're both Yankees fans and there's a huge Yankees game, you want to go to Buffalo Wild Wings, grab a couple of drinks, chit chat while you're watching the game. I think that's actually a decent first date.
You'd have
It's
to
about the event,
do a regular
not
season
the
game.
food itself.
Yeah. Don't just show up at on a random Tuesday at Buffalo.
Gonna watch
Wild Wings. Don't do
UFC
that,
300.
I mean, if
nobody-
she's a UFC
nobody-
fan or he's a UFC fan, whoever you're dating, I don't want to gender people, but yeah.
How about Red Lobster? Red Lobster okay for a first date? Let's go to
For
Red
first date?
Lobster.
I don't know.
I've
I've
never
only
actually
been
been
to
to
Red
Red
Lobster
Lobster
once in my whole life.
I've never been to Red
been
Lobster,
once.
so I have no idea.
I'm a big fan of Red Lobster. I think probably I'm gonna say no because like it's
Red
like a
Lobster
weird
together.
thing where it's a weird thing where like a lot of the food on Red Lobster is there's not like an elegant way to eat it. Like if you go to Red Lobster and you get like the crab or you get the lobster, you kind of look like an animal when you eat it.
Yeah, that's just you don't get seafood on the first date, and if you do, like it's got to be like shellfish that's already out. Like go to you scallops or something. Don't get
calamari.
crab or lobster on a first date.
Right, but like
Otherwise you gotta like
get
suck the thing out of the leg.
Get the butter.
Yeah, it's not a bad choice. I just think that like.
Well, I think it's also fast casual, which I've said is bad if you get past a certain age. So I'm sticking with my previous, my previous.
I think Red Lobster would rank above like Cheesecake Factory or Red Robin.
I don't know. I've been to both. I think I'd probably go back to Cheesecake Factory before.
Red Lobster, but it's also the idea that like Red Lobster is seafood. And seafood is seen as a little bit of a higher quality because it's a little bit more expensive. I think that's why I would rank a little higher.
I'm surprised at how much I've agreed with everything that this list has said. I was going
I'm
going to make fun of these women, but actually I agree with this. I agree with almost everything on this list.
It's not so much that it's the things on this list are like because these are like places like if you really want to you would put like a Klan rally or something on this, like something like it's
I don't think anyone would even suggest that.
Like that's the type of thing you would put on this. All this stuff in this list is like, okay, there are scenarios in which this would be a comfortable place. These aren't like egregious answers; they're just all situational.
True.
I think that's the difference.
But I thought I was going to be mad at. I mean, this list, the existence of this list is silly. But I thought I was going to hate everything on this list, and there's a few that I know I'm going to disagree with as we get further down. We're almost there. But I was surprised at how much I was like, actually, no, that's right. Every time I read one, I'm like, actually, no, that's right. I think I'm with them on that. You know what I mean?
How about this though? A buffet. Go into a buffet on a first date.
Those are not usually very very
clean
classy joints. So I'm gonna agree. They're not clean neither. So I'm gonna agree. And also, you don't want to eat that much on a first date. You might think you do, but you don't.
And it's never like the food. There's always the chance that you get like food poisoning or something from it too.
Yeah.
You don't want to be associated with that. Like especially if it's a place that has like
go
a
to
lot
the casino
of
buffet.
Yeah, buffet is out. Yeah, buffet is out. I mean, I'm usually too nervous to eat that much anyway when I used to go on first dates. So I'm saying that buffet's out. You don't need that. You don't need that.
It does get more controversial as we go. IHOP and Denny's.
Yes. Yeah, because most of this is food stuff.
Well, it does finally switch up by the end. IHOP and Denny's.
Yeah, IHOP and Denny's. Yeah, I mean, same.
Go to get some breakfast.
Get those. I mean, actually, I guess if you need to do a breakfast date,
yeah, if you need to do a breakfast
then IHOP is the spot. 100%.
Hey,
go to IHOP or like a diner, I guess. But
IHOP.
But like IHOP's the spot. If you need a breakfast spot and you don't have like a diner near you, yeah, absolutely go to IHOP. So a Denny's, I think you can avoid. You don't need that. Denny's you don't. You if you have eggs over my hammy on your first date, you're not getting a second date.
Yeah,
that's the end of the first date. The order of ordering that is the end of the first date and the end of the second date as well.
Well, it depends on what time. Like if you'd gone out drinking with that person for the entire time, it's like 2 a.m.
Yeah, but I would say at that point the drinking was the first date.
You're already on your second date, right? At this point,
yeah, and maybe not a second date, but like the first date was you went for drinks, and now you're at a Denny's because that's what you do after drinks. But that's not the date. You know what I mean? Okay. When you're talking to your friends, you're gonna be like, "Oh, we went to," and you're gonna say the name of the bar. You're not gonna say we went to Denny's. Like, you know what I mean?
We went to Denny's.
We went to Denny's.
How about this is a non-food one? Go. So who came up with this? You want to go to the gym for your first date? Work out together? Like, come on.
A first date? That's tough.
The gym. Yeah.
I mean,
a first date. That's tough.
Go to the escalator together.
Yeah, like what
again,
you
like most of these other things, it's situational. Depending on the person.
First date, though,
you want to go to the
depends
gym?
on the people. What if you work? What if you like big bodybuilder stuff, or you like?
I think the gym is where you ask the person to go on the date. Like you're both at the gym already.
You guys are training,
and
together.
then you say, "Hey, you want to do more push-ups than after this?"
I could do more push-ups.
I don't think.
You.
Yeah, you don't want to.
I think you could absolutely
actively working on.
You
Hey
think you
man,
could go on a
that's a
date?
good way to build up them endorphins and get the testosterone
Well, I'm
flowing.
not saying don't go to the gym at all. I'm saying that
But
that
who goes
shouldn't
on a
be the
gym
date.
date? What's a gym date?
It
Even
could
if you're
look.
Yeah, it's
married.
Hey man,
that's a tough thing.
No, go.
if
Well,
you're
I
at the
mean,
Someone
gym,
tell me.
right,
Please
like
tell me if
I've
you went
gone
on
to
a
the
gym
gym
date.
with my wife. I didn't call it a gym date. We were just both at the gym. Like, you know what I mean? So that's kind of my thing is there's no way for me and my wife to go to like, I'll say well, which one did we say we're good? Buffalo Wild Wings, right? We said that could be good, right? There's no way that we're going to independently end up at a Buffalo Wild Wings, my wife and I. We could very easily independently end up at the gym at the same time because we both just happen to be free at that moment. That has happened before where I've been like, oh, I'm free for a minute. Let me go to the gym. And I get there and my wife is finishing her workout because we have a gym in our apartment complex. Like, you know what I mean? We didn't plan it. I just was like, oh, I'm free now. I just got back from work and my wife was there. Like, so I think that you can absolutely go to the gym accidentally with someone that you're interested in. And I think at that point you say, hey, when we're done, let's go insert anything else. And that's your date, not the gym.
What about going to church? Would you go to church on a first date?
You have to be a specific you have to be a specific person to do that.
And you say,
I think that
I just
person
want to thank
exists.
I just want to thank the Lord for your beauty that we're here together.
I mean,
Yeah,
again, if you're very religious,
You're
then
very
yeah,
Christian.
actually, I think this one could very easily happen, and I think for some people this is very good first date. Because if you're super religious, you kind of want that out on front and center,
I guess
like
so.
right away.
I
So and if she or he is cool with it when you take them to the church date, then you probably got someone who's compatible with you. If you can get someone to go on a church, if you can get someone to go on a church date with you, then you've probably found a good partner. Because no one is going to the church if they're not interested in going to the church date. No one's gonna accidentally do a church date.
How about going to Starbucks as a
yeah,
first date?
Starbucks specifically,
Starbucks specifically.
yeah. No, absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah,
actually that's fine. Coffee's fine.
Not according to this
it's
list,
coffee. Yeah,
Yeah.
but here we go,
Well, this
guys.
is the one
According to
one of
this
the ones I
list,
disagree with.
number 18, they say don't go on coffee dates. Do you agree? Yes or no?
Well, that's the same as Starbucks. I disagree. Coffee dates are a great way to talk to someone, especially if you're not able to do the date later in the day where like drinks or dinner is really an option. I think the coffee dates meet literally all the criteria. What are the criteria of a good date? You sit down and get to know someone, you share a meal, I guess you share some sort of, you consume something with somebody, right? You do all that at a coffee date. It's got a nice ambiance. You consume something with somebody else and you get to sit down and talk about a person to get to know them better. There's literally nothing that you want from a date that you can't do over a cup of coffee. So I
yeah. The
disagree.
only reason I would say to not do a coffee date is if you don't like coffee.
Well, yeah,
That's
obviously.
me.
Like that's
Yeah, if you're
literally
like,
it.
oh, I
Like
hate this. Do you like your coffee? Yeah. What about you? Oh no, I hate it. Like, yeah, don't do that.
I
like
just
like
get
I don't like
hot chocolate
coffee,
there.
and I've been on coffee dates. Like I'll be like straight up, I'm not a big fan of coffee. I'll happily meet you there, and I'll get like a water or something. But like,
Drink
Okay,
water.
so that's the thing. You guys think that's okay to order not coffee at a coffee shop for a coffee date?
yes,
Okay. To me, like, I mean, I drink coffee, so it's not a problem. But to me, if I didn't like coffee, I would avoid going to a coffee date.
I would. It would. It's like the way I've always put it is I'm not a huge fan of coffee. So like, if there's another option, I'll take it. But if it comes down to it, I'm fine with going
That's
there.
interesting. We'll have to circle back with Jose. I want to hear specifically what he thinks about coffee dates where you don't drink coffee.
How about ice cream dates?
Yes.
Yeah, it's fine.
Not according to this
You
list.
just
I
go
know
for a
it's
little.
I think it's fine, but according to this list, no, don't take somebody out.
No,
to ice
you
cream.
grab ice cream and you go for like a walk in like a local park or whatever. Yeah, no.
Not
That
according to
one.
these
See, we're getting
chicks.
to the end, and this is where it's wrong. Ice cream. They said don't go to any restaurants, and also don't do anything. So we can't go
Yeah.
with this list. But
No, that's why it keeps
the
getting funny.
restaurants they picked are correct. If you're going to a restaurant, you need to go to a restaurant. But I'm saying you don't have to go to a restaurant for a first date. It's the easiest one, and it's the one that's most likely to impress. I agree with them there, but it's not required.
How about family functions? Hey, look at this. We're on a
No.
date. Hey, mom,
No, you
grandma,
can't
what do you
that.
think?
First date?
Yeah, first
No, it's not a
date.
first date thing.
No,
That's a second date thing.
that'd be second date. No,
I
but
That's
don't
what I
even
do
think
with my
so.
current
it's a
girlfriend. I brought her.
later. It's a later thing. Yeah, I knew
Eventually.
my girlfriend. Jesus, I knew my wife's parents before we started dating, and I still like once we started dating, I didn't come around for like 2 months because it's weird to be like, oh, this is that kid that we met, but now they're dating. It does make it different. So no, the family function. I have done that. I have met people I've dated parents very early in the dating thing. And it's always a bad idea. I mean, it's not horrible. If it happens, it happens. But I wouldn't
Right.
plan your first date around a family function.
It's too early for a first date, but not too early.
Definitely first date. No.
How about movie night?
That's
like
the
what?
same thing as the movies. We've
Exactly.
already covered this.
Exactly. It says here
That well,
Netflix,
I think they
Hulu,
maybe mean like at someone's
Netflix and
someone's
chill.
like house.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think
Movie
that
night at
goes
their
with the
house.
house thing. I think that the danger element for a woman being invited to a guy's house to watch a movie, I think to me makes sense why it's on this list. I would never, if I was invited to someone's house, it would probably never cross my mind. But I can see why if like a woman particularly might be worried. And I'm saying a woman particularly because I talk to women who say that they oftentimes think about, when they're running at night or whatever, like it's a more present part of their time. But if you're a guy who's just, constantly kind of like, I mean, going to a stranger's house is always going to come with risk. I think most guys, I can speak for guys way more easily. Most guys probably don't think about it that way. But it is always a risky thing to just show up at a stranger's house, right? So I'm not trying to say, oh, women are too scared, they shouldn't go. Like, no one should really go to some stranger's house, but I can see specifically why a group of women might target that as like a definite no, whereas like a guy could probably be convinced to just go.
Again, this is something I repeated, and it's very weird just because my first date was at my girlfriend's house, and my second date, she met my entire family. So this is
like a weird
way
perspective.
Well, no, yeah, like you said, it's different.
It is
time. I'm just saying, as a general
at
rule,
the end of the day,
if you're dating right now, like what are like the rules? I feel like you can break rules are meant to be broken a little bit, but you do gotta know them to break them, right?
What about somewhere that requires a long drive? I think what's a long drive? More than 30 minutes?
Yeah, I don't. That's too vague for me to weigh in.
Right.
So
we gotta go 3 hours.
maybe not
to the Olive Garden.
And that also depends on like how far away you are from that person. Like, am I meeting you somewhere in the middle, or are we driving together?
That's so broad. There's no way to really come up with like. I wouldn't take like if I was put myself in single shoes, going away for the weekend on a first date, no, right?
Or would I go to like the I went on a date with my ex. We went to the Six Flags Park. That was 10 hours of driving. That was 3 hours away from me. Like, I'm not doing that on a first date.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like, but if you're like, oh, there's this cool winery that's like 2 hours away or an hour and a half away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's fine.
How about bowling? Bowling's a solid second date, I think.
Bowling's a good first date.
Bowling's a good group thing. I don't know.
Again,
one-on-one bowling, I don't know.
I had bowling dates.
I had a great second date for a bowling that led to a relationship. I should do that more often. I haven't done this. I don't think I've been back to the bowling alley since.
Bowling's fine. Yeah, I take it back. Bowling is fine. I didn't do it, but I think you could. That's a fine.
But
first date.
It is also a good like group first date too thing. Like if it makes them more comfortable to have friends, and you could bring some friends, that is a good option for that too.
And the gutters go up or down?
Down.
I always put them. I don't care. Gutters go up. This is a controversial. I think it's fine to have the gutters up. I really do. Who cares?
No, only if you're fucking around. Like
down. You got to. And you just got to eat the gutter ball. You're gonna throw a gutter ball. I try and do it early. Not anymore, I don't.
You ever see?
But try and do it early.
I'm gonna go. You ever see Malcolm in the Middle? That episode of them at the bowling alley, two different perspectives.
Yeah.
There's one point where he walks up and completely misses. That's probably what happened to me if I was on a first date. They
Remember
did
listen,
Wii
if
bowling?
you're gonna gutter it,
Wii
Matt?
you
bowling.
gutter it as hard
Classic.
as you can on purpose. If you're gonna
Whoa.
gutter ball it, if you're gonna gutter ball it, you do it as hard as you can on purpose so that it pops out and takes out a pin. That's when you do it.
I haven't pulled that off.
We're just laughing. The Wii bowling, in the game Wii bowling, if you let go too early of the B trigger, it throws the ball backward, and everybody jumps up like, whoa.
Yeah.
And we went bowling, me and Matt with some friends. We were young. He did it. It was very funny. We almost got kicked out, but it was very funny.
Shoo. I will say
we all jumped too. We're like, whoa. Like literally, like we did very good. That's how you would react if the bowling ball goes back. To be clear, everyone listening, it was on purpose. Matt told me he was going to do it. It was not he didn't accidentally throw it behind him. He was like, I'm going to do the Wii bowling thing. And then he did it. So
you know what's funny about
it was very funny.
Man, the bowling alley though has to deal with a lot of punk ass teenagers.
Yeah,
I'm
describing us as punk. This is us as the punk teenagers.
Definitely.
Throwing the ball
now
backwards.
I hate. Now when I see teenagers, like, wow, I regret being a punk ass teenager. I was very much that. Literally, I was like, just as between ages of 16 and 8, like 15 to 17. I'm like, how am I gonna fuck around with this person today? Exactly why being a teenager is annoying. Was I
mean, to be fair, that's where Lauren Boebert met her husband, was at a bowling alley.
And that worked out really well.
How about nightclubs?
Yeah, there's a lot more to that story.
Nightclubs?
As a first
probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah, and if you don't vibe, you just stand there.
I guess you could meet. Maybe you meet out. Like if you like talking to someone, and you're both out. I could see you being like, I'm going to wherever, let's meet up. And you could do something like that. Mm-hmm. But I think it's really hard to be like, I'll pick you up and then we go to the nightclub. Now, again, it could be part of a longer thing, but it's never your first and only stop, I think. I mean, other than very specific circumstances. So yeah, I agree. And again, you're not getting to know someone at a nightclub that well. I guess, if you have a lot of money, you can get like private, you get bottle service, get yourself a little booth, then maybe. But like regular, hanging out by the bar, you're not hearing anybody talk at a nightclub.
What about the hookah bar? What? No.
I mean, I don't partake, but yeah, I'm gonna have to assume that's probably not a good first date spot.
I guess it depends on the people. If it's a thing that you do, I'm sure there's probably some like cultural relevance to that too. Where if it's a more dominant part of your culture, or a more accepted part, or a more like consistent thing, then yeah, probably. But now, again, like most of these,
I think that one's more than likely that one's probably not the best place to bring up if you're trying to plan your first date.
Now that
would be my guess.
There's 3 more. Now here's one thing that I think most people who have dated have actually done. Should you go to a bar for drinks on the first date?
Yeah, you can do that.
Wait, yeah. Why is this even on the list?
I don't know, because I guess they didn't like it.
No, this is a very common thing. Makes sense. It's public. You can even like, if you're like not totally comfortable with a date, you can kind of like sneak some people in. Like you can have friends come and like hang out at the bar separate from you. You know what I mean? Like if you're really like, I like this guy, but I'm not so sure. Or I like this girl, but I'm not so sure. Like the bar to me gives you everything you want. I mean, you don't want like a crazy loud bar. Don't go to the biggest college bar on like Friday night. But like there was a bar in Rochester, which was actually a very big college bar. But what we did, it wasn't our first date. But what we did when we go there for the actual dates, where we'd go early, not early, but like, because no one, like most of the college students were not showing up till like what, 10? You know what I mean? Like that's when people show up at the bar. So we go at like 8:30 or like 9, somewhere between there.
Get
If you
actual
start a
dinner
little
there.
earlier, no. You just have dinner or don't. You just don't eat dinner or eat dinner before you go. But like you go and like you hang out at the bar. Maybe if there's like a small like cocktail table. This place had those like those tables that you could stand at. So we would like grab one of those and you just kind of hang out. And then by 10:30, maybe 11, everyone else is there. So it just kind of transitions into like the rest of your night. So you had like a date and then you got to have like the rest of your night when everybody else arrived at 10. You know what I mean? So I think that that's a totally valid date. Wasn't my first date, but I think it's one of the best dates that I went on with my now wife was to a bar. So I am pro going to the bar. I think it can work for a first date. It definitely works for not a first date. So
How about Waffle House?
Same thing as the IHOP.
Waffle House, most people go to at night.
Really? I've never been to Waffle
and also,
House.
actually, you know what?
And
My
they have a
understanding is
reputation.
it's kind of like ghetto Denny's. And
Yeah,
Yeah,
essentially.
they have a reputation. So I think I would avoid it just because of the reputation. I don't know much about it. I think I may have been to a Waffle House once when I was traveling to Texas, but I don't know. I would probably just because of the connotation I'd avoid it personally.
Avoid the Waffle House. And then the last one is sporting events.
First date sporting event.
Yeah, do you want to go to see a game? Nah.
If they're
Depends
a fan,
on
I
the
think
game.
that's a good. Yeah, if they're a fan,
I
I
think
think that's a
that's
good
kind
first
of the
date.
same as the
The Buffalo Wild Wings. Yeah.
So let me
Don't
ask.
like be like, oh, I have everything planned, and
So
then
let me
she's like, where are we going?
to watch
You know?
the Knicks. So let me ask you
Yeah, like
guys
you need to
this.
know that.
So finally, we gave the list. Tell me one first. Which one of these are actually just ridiculous? Like could you
Ridiculous
go
and like it shouldn't be on the list.
like yeah. What should not be on this list? What should not be on the infamous internet first date list?
the bar,
Yep.
Starbucks.
And coffee, yeah. Put those together.
I think movies is a fair one to not have.
Yeah, you could work a movie out.
I think most of the restaurant ones probably also shouldn't be on there either, because a lot
Oh
of
no,
that is
I agree
situational.
with all the restaurant ones.
All the
like,
chained
but
restaurants. All the chained
everything
chain
was
casual
said to
fine
us.
dining.
But there wasn't anything like outright, no, this should not be. All of them are situational.
Applebee's. Applebee's is not the right.
I
It's
think
not the way.
Applebee's might be the only acceptable. Applebee's is probably Waffle House.
Yeah, Applebee's and Waffle House. Do not go. No, but the movie, yeah, the coffee and stuff, the bar. I think the sporting event could be a really good one if you have a fan. Like actually, because I mean, those are not like you get good seats. Those are not inexpensive. So if you've got like if you're dating someone and he's like a really big fan of the Jets and you get good tickets to go to MetLife, like that's a really thoughtful thing to do for someone on the first date. It's expensive. So like,
Or on the other hand, you could
but
go to like a lot of minor league games aren't super expensive. Like when the Liberty played in Westchester,
yeah,
you can get tickets for that for like $20, and that
as
could
long
be
as they're fans. That's what I'm saying. Like if you have a fan,
Like,
then I think you're good. Actually, I went to again, not a first date, so this is really not applicable. But I went to Rochester Amherst game with Melissa. There, hockey, and neither one of us is actually big hockey fans, but it was really cheap. So yeah, let's do it. But I think that would be a bad first date if you don't care and she doesn't care. Then don't do that for a first date. You know what I mean? You want to have something a little bit more impressive. But if
right.
if she's a big hockey fan and you can get tickets to a hockey game, you should,
Might
because you
as
can
well,
talk.
right?
You know what I mean? Like, right? It gives you all the access to all the things you want to do on a date, and it's something like thoughtful. It shows that you know something about them. Like, I think that's a totally decent thing you can do, but it's got to be the right person. You can't like force someone to go to a sporting event if they hate sports or whatever.
Mm-hmm. So this list, which is pretty large and in depth. Now, why don't we try to figure out, I guess what else? What is not on the list that you could actually go to? What, a picnic? Clearly a very expensive
Picnics are good.
restaurant. You have to go to a
Right, a
very
non-chain
specific,
restaurant.
a non-chained, probably expensive restaurant. So we have.
Doesn't need to be expensive.
So
Wait,
here,
is this? Wait, I want to clarify this because I made this. The list is basically where you shouldn't go, but it's like
Shouldn't go.
things
on a
that are
first date.
acceptable if you do. Because like,
No,
again,
they definitely said don't
They
go.
said don't go to this.
well, this is an absurd list because there's like way more stupid shit that you could do.
Well, I think
Like
that what they're saying, yeah, I do think you're right. That clearly they were like, ritual sacrifice was not going to show up on this list,
like
but
skydiving. I don't
obviously,
want to go skydiving on my
yeah,
first
right,
date.
like, yeah, scuba diving's not on this list, or like, you know what I mean,
Clearly this list
yeah,
is things that are like kind of acceptable in circumstances.
plausible. Yeah, they came up with a list of things that might be plausible, but you should avoid doing. I think was the point of this list. It wasn't going with, you know what I mean? Like I made a obviously ridiculous joke of like ritual sacrifice. Don't do that. If you're into that, don't bring your date there. Certainly not first date. But like obviously no one's gonna do that. No one does that. It's not real. So they're not gonna include like ridiculous things. I think they were looking at things that could happen and saying don't do them. I think that was their plan. Was like to find like semi-reasonable things and say, but just because they seem reasonable doesn't mean you should do them. I think that was one of the list. The list was a super overreaction
Oh,
to a
clearly.
bad
And
date. By the
like
way.
also I personally don't like going on dinner on first dates for expense reasons
I'm too
and stuff
nervous
like
to
that.
eat
Like
too. Like you know what I
right,
mean? You don't
exactly.
want to eat.
Like
You just
I
want
want
to
to enjoy the
talk.
meal. So
I think coffee or bar is
I
actually
like the
probably the
picnic
best.
idea. I like the picnic
Picnic's a
idea.
good one
Picnic
too.
is good. If you're creative about it, picnic could be really good.
Yeah, if you just have like a blanket and sandwiches, don't do a picnic. But
Yeah,
What
you have
should
to
you do
like
though?
know
What
the
do you
person to get an idea what they might
you
like.
have to
you gotta
have
fill the
a bottle
basket.
of wine, a basket, have a
Yeah,
guitar.
you gotta have the basket. You don't need a guitar. I mean, if you can play guitar, bring a guitar, but don't just show up with a guitar. That'd be weird.
So
You're
picnic,
both just staring at the
but
guitar, like it's not gonna play itself.
so go
But
to a
picnic's
picnic
fine if you
with a
go for
nice
it.
picnic basket and wine.
Yeah, you gotta put it together. Think about it. Yeah, got some wine, got some fruit, like some crackers and
So
stuff.
that's the thing
You
we've come
have
up with.
something made.
The one thing acceptable that should help everybody in all financial situations is to go take your potential date on a picnic.
Picnic is safe. Yeah.
Hopefully it
Yeah,
goes well, and
picnic.
you
I think
only have
coffee's a drink.
6 months of the year
Coffee
to
and
do
drinks
it.
are probably number one.
Still go with the
Boat
coffees.
ride.
F the list. But go to coffee.
I think
Boat rides
coffee
are
and drinks are
romantic.
probably the first one.
Boat rides are
Oh.
romantic. You get on a boat somewhere. That's a good idea.
I have to say, this is
Yeah, Staten
definitely
Island Ferry.
the show's going to be a little different now. This is the longest segment of all time on the show. Not bad at all. There's not a problem. I'm just saying we'll do some quick adjustments because we're already at 112. Let's go for
Yes.
20 more minutes. Britney Spears' book, more excerpts are coming. And according to Britney Spears' book, she has had quite the life from promiscuity to relationships with various
Well, it's mostly
music
just promiscuity in
personalities.
relationships.
Yeah, let's be real.
Let's just be honest. At least the excerpts. That's the majority of the book.
So what were some of the things you saw?
Pretty
with it?
disappointing. Well, I just wanted to say broadly, it was disappointing. Everyone clowned Will and Jada last week. I'm still right about that, and the internet agreed with me. But in general, that book seemed real, right? There was things there. If you wanted to read a book, there's things you can learn about Will and Jada that have nothing to do with their bedroom. This does not seem to be that. This seems to be entirely about Britney Spears in the bedroom. I don't condone what happened to Britney Spears. She was clearly exploited for a very long time. Justin Timberlake, everyone got mad at me for saying this. It's still true. You can be mad. Was part of the problem. He was part of the people doing it. Wasn't the whole thing, but he was part of it. But this book is clearly a cash grab trying to sell on all of the on her promiscuity. And I don't like to use that word because it's a loaded word, and she could sleep with whoever she wants. I don't care, and no one should care. And if you care, you have a problem, not Britney. But this book is just about people that she's been with in situations pertaining to sex and relationships. There's just not a lot of there based on the excerpts. I mean, Colin Farrell's one. Like, who cares that you had a quickie with Colin Farrell?
Yeah,
Who
right.
cares?
That is
what
so
is the
random.
what is the literary benefit of me knowing that information. Like when the Justin stuff came out, you can ignore the size queen jokes, right? And go with, obviously ground shaking about the having, an abortion, right? That's a big deal. Like that is salacious, but it's also something that fans of hers have probably never heard and would definitely be interested in. And like it is probably a seminal moment in her life because that's a hard decision to have to make. Having a quickie with Colin Farrell is not a hard decision. It probably wasn't much of a decision at all. It was just kind of, all right, fine. Like it's just not, to me. Again, this is just selling on, trading on a life with, a lot of partners, which is totally good for her, to make a quick buck, which is also totally good for her. But I think if you're looking for a book to read, pick up Jada's. John Stamos had a book that's supposed to be interesting. Don't bother with this one. You heard the important bit of this book that got leaked all over last week. That's the only thing anyone needs to know from this book, and everybody in the world already knows it. My opinion.
Feel the same
I
way,
have no
Faces?
comment. I don't care. I don't care. I have no idea. I don't know what any of it the excerpt is. I could not care less. I don't think there's anybody whose life has been more spotlighted than Britney Spears. Maybe LeBron, but like other than that, like
there's people. Taylor Swift.
Yeah, but like I don't care. It doesn't. Yeah, I mean, if you want to read it, go read it. If you don't, don't. It makes no difference. Honestly, just leave her the fuck alone.
Free Britney. Free Britney.
What do you guys think?
This is going to hurt that, I think. But
True. What do you guys think about Drake's birthday? And he had Bryan Cranston and not Jesse Pinkman and Aaron Paul. What do you guys think about Jake's birthday with Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul bartending at it? Now that
the studios need to sit at the table, okay? Walter White and Jesse Pinkman should not have to resort to serving bar to pay their bills. Can you imagine having that much money? You could just call Bryan Cranston and say, "Do you want to be a bartender?" And then he'd be like, "Yes." So, this proves to me. I mean, obviously they don't. I mean, I don't say they don't need money. They do, but obviously neither one of them is hurting for money to the point that they actually took this job to like pay their bills. That was clearly a joke. But can you imagine how bored Bryan Cranston must be that he agreed to do this? He's Bryan Cranston. He's like an Academy darling. Everybody loves him. He's one of the best performers on like both the large and small screen, right? Like he's killed it in both. And he's just so bored right now that Drake could be like, "Hey, I have a fun idea." And him be like, "Yeah, let's do it." Like that's how bored he is. Come on. We got to get the actors working again because Bryan needs more stimulation for that mind than making mojitos for all of Drake's friends, okay? So it's time to, get it going. We got to get these people back to work, using their minds and their gifts the way that we need them to be using and not coming up with a new rum runner.
Amen.
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 I got nothing.
I support it too.
Be right.
I support. I mean, listen. It's really funny. I'm glad they did it, but it's just like, how bored do you have to be like, yeah, I'll do that. Like it feels like if you called me and said, "Do you want to be a bartender tonight?" and I was just like, "I'm not doing anything tonight." Sure. Like, you know how bored no offense, man. I like you and all, but you know how bored I'd have to be if you're like, "I'm having some friends over. Can you come over and tend bar?" I'd have to be so bored.
Not even like, "Hey, do you want to join us? Do you want to like work for us?"
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. No, not like I'm having friends over for a drink if you want to come. No, like, hey, I'm having some friends over for a drink. Do you want to serve bar? Like 10 bar? Like, you know how bored I'd have to be like, yeah, I'll do that. That's fine. Like again, I like you. It's not an insult. It's just you have to be really bored to agree to do that for no reason. Because they don't need the money. It's not monetary. So come on. Let's get everybody back to work. It's for everybody's best. Otherwise, soon Bryan Cranston's going to be, serving bar at like a local place. It's going to become a whole thing. We're going to lose him to the bar scene, and we can't afford that. So Disney, get your stuff together. Come on.
All right, we can wrap it up with Congressman Mike Johnson on October 25th was elected as the Speaker of the House from the state of Louisiana. His name is Mike Johnson. What should people know about Mike Johnson being your new Speaker of the House?
Well, first of
How in
all,
depth
his
do you
name is
want this?
Mike Johnson. Do
I
you know
like
how generic Mike Johnson is as the name? Like, which it doesn't matter if you're the most qualified person, not saying that he is. But if you're the most qualified person, it doesn't matter what your name is. But just think about this. Like Mike Johnson, that's your math teacher. Like that, I don't know. And then when you look at him, he doesn't strike a particularly interesting visage for folks, right? When you see Mike Johnson, you're not instantly looking at the leader of the United States House of Representatives. You're
the
mostly
third in
looking
line to
at
president.
you're looking at like a CPA. What'd you say?
He's the third in line to the presidency.
Right, yeah, exactly. The next President Johnson could be Mike, right? We're gonna go from Lyndon, or was it Andrew to Lyndon Baines to Mike. Hopefully we don't, by the way, but just in general, I don't know.
Mike Johnson. He said Mike Johnson.
Mike Johnson. Oh yeah, that too. It does sound like a middle schooler's like, "Hey, my name is Mike. What? Mike what? Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson." It just sounds like you know what I mean? Yeah,
Mike
it's just
Dix.
very.
Yeah. Mike Dix is in charge of the House.
It does, yeah, it does sound like that.
Okay, but like on a serious note, do you want me to get into the serious things about this guy?
Sure.
I mean, there are serious things with some of his comments and whatever.
Mike Johnson being elected with zero pushback from the Republicans, they have no spine. This man is a goddamn lunatic.
What do you mean no spine? They failed 16 times.
No. Like they were mad at Jim Jordan because of some of the things that Jim Jordan did, like the being against Mike Johnson is as bad as Jim Jordan, with the exception of it doesn't appear that he overlooked sexual assault while he was a wrestling coach at Ohio State.
That's a big thing, by the way. Not for nothing.
Yeah. No, I'm saying. So, let me just give you a quick list of who Mike Johnson is. Mike Johnson is a Christian nationalist fundamentalist who believes in young Earth theory. He believes young Earth is that the Earth is only 4,000 years old.
Like the Bible thing.
Yeah. He believes that gay marriage should be illegal, and that homosexuality is a sin, and that mass shootings are caused by feminism, Roe v. Wade, and gay people. He is so in reference to the overthrowing of the previous election, the insurrection. There was a legal attempt to do this. There was an amicus brief filed by Texas that's basically trying to throw out the results of these other 4 states. Mike Johnson wrote that fucking brief. He is the one who got it signed in the House. He was the one who spread it around. He was the lead person in the House in the attempt to overthrow the previous election. The man in charge of certifying the next election was one of the key people attempting to stop the previous one. Mike Johnson is not a moderate. Mike Johnson is about as radical as they come, and him being in charge is a death knell to the moderate Republican and the idea that they exist. The only difference between him and Jim Jordan is he is not outright on television all the time, and apparently his followers didn't outright threaten other congresspeople. That is the only difference. Mike Johnson is every bit as dangerous as Jim Jordan, and him being there is a death knell to the idea that the Republican Party believes in democracy. And this was led up by the fact that one of the reporters asked him about how he felt about having tried to overturn the election, and the conference around him responded by booing.
So, Fresh Faces, real quick. I told you last time that the Aaron Sorkin, Hakeem Jeffries become speaker wasn't going to happen, and I was right.
Mm-hmm.
Which Republican, you seem to know a lot of them. I'm not, by the way, I don't like this Mike Johnson guy. I don't know much about him. What I do know was mostly what you said. But which Republican would have been right for you?
Tom Emmer. Tom Emmer was the most rational choice. The reason Tom Emmer was their choice 2 days ago before Mike Johnson. The reason Tom Emmer is not the Speaker of the House is because Tom Emmer made 2 fateful flaws. One of them is absolutely ridiculous. One is he believes gay people should have the right to be married. And 2, and this is the true thing that stabbed him in the back, Mike Emmer believes that the 2020 election was fairly done, that Joe Biden is president.
Yeah, but Donald Trump doesn't like Tom Emmer, so that was never going to happen.
And that's why he got killed. And if the Republican Party had a spine, they would have, and he's the one who could have done this. Mike Emmer could have been the one to have crossed the aisle to say, look, we can sideline these lunatics. We don't have to worry about them. Help me be speaker, which they should have, and they could have gotten something out of him. And he would have been the right choice. Do I agree with everything Mike Emmer did? No. But I believe Mike Emmer is the choice where I would feel safe about democracy if he was the one who has to certify the election in 2025.
But so, if I'm not mistaken, he's the one who didn't even make it 4 hours as the nominee, correct?
He is, yes. And the
so
reason is
obviously,
because,
well, no, I get what you're saying, but that means you're saying that the radicals sidelined him. If the majority didn't want him, then that means the majority is the radicals, which means they're not radical anymore. They're just Republicans.
And that's what my point is. The Republican Party,
so that means there was no right answer. None of the people who are Republicans right now would have been good for you. I mean, Emmer, you like him, but he's obviously not a regular Republican. He didn't even make it 4 hours. He didn't even make it 4 hours.
Right, but that is because
I could have made 4 hours as Speaker of the House nominee.
Right. So hold on. I do need to clarify this. So when Jim Jordan was the option, it looked like on that Monday that he was going to get it because it looked like all the people who talked big game, their spines were made out of jelly.
Sure.
It turns out that they were actually strong enough to hold him off. The difference is that more of the caucus appears to be afraid of Donald Trump, at least in this case, or that there was enough hubbub because Donald Trump did make a response to Mike Emmer or to Tom Emmer being speaker before he dropped out, that it caused it. I honestly think that had he gotten to a floor vote, he probably would have gotten it. I think the fact that they are like, yeah, no, Mike Johnson's the guy, it erases any doubt that there is a radical, that the party is not run in a minority majority in order to be the most radicalized non-governing party that we could possibly have.
I mean, again, I won't comment too much further because we have to end soon. I'll just say that we needed a speaker because we have things that needed to be addressed. I don't think that most of the Republicans putting their name forward would have been good for me as someone who doesn't support that party. If you're a Republican, you probably disagree with me. I don't think that, honestly, I don't know. I can't prove this. I think if Tom Emmer had been elected, most Democrats and people who are independent but lean that way would have found a reason to hate him too. So I think that no matter what, the left is in the minority in the House. They were going to dislike the choice. We just got to hope that the dude in charge is going to keep the government open, make sure that we provide support for our various entanglements across the world and all that good stuff. That's what we need. We just got to hope, because no matter who they put in charge, it was going to be silly season. That this happened with silly season, which we talked about last time, so we're not going to rehash it. We listen to that episode. We discussed the whole thing about removing Kevin McCarthy, but what's done is done. At least now there's a possibility that the government will start governing. Possibility, maybe not a strong one, but a possibility that was previously not on the table.
No, I agree. Look, we did need a speaker. I think we did need a speaker. I think I wish it hadn't been a guy who basically embodies the House's idea that democracy doesn't matter. I think, being there a question of whether or not the next election will be certified seems a little problematic.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. And look, the good news is we got to see this clown show. Did they luck out that the Israel thing happened so that this wasn't the only thing going on? Yes. Is this guy going to be a massive albatross around their neck because of how radical and insane he is? Absolutely. Do I think that they're going to hurt a lot of people in the meantime? Probably.
They're going to do that anyway.
I think it would have been less with Emmer. I don't know how. I think there would have been less having training to do, to like get Ukraine aid in order to open the government, in order to, because Mike Johnson is going to attempt to cut Social Security and Medicare, and like this is not this is not even like a thing that they're hiding. Like they poor people are going to suffer because of this man. Possibly gay people. There is a good chance that Marjorie Taylor Greene's anti-trans bill passes the House because of this man. He tried to do a national "Don't Say Gay" bill.
That's that shit I don't like.
Exactly. There's not much more we could say. This is who they wanted. This is who was always, not him, but this was what it was always going to be. So, again, we can't ever prove it, but this was the path. As soon as they removed Kevin McCarthy, this was the path that we were on the whole time. Maybe not Mike Johnson, the seminal leader of our time, the spitting image of congressional fortitude, Mike Johnson. But the profile of Mike Johnson is the profile of the next Speaker of the House, has been since the beginning.
Let's end on a positive note. What's the greatest damn movie of all time, and why is it Good Burger?
All right, why is it Good Burger, Matt? I want to know. Why is it Good Burger?
Well, Good Burger represents how friendships can be tried through many obstacles. When Ed needed a friend, Dexter, played by Kenan Thompson, and Ed, played by Kel Mitchell, pulled through. And it shows that they had odds against each other. They did not like each other. And then, what is the main thing that can drive a friendship? What could be one? An opportunity for money and economic growth. And what happened there? The Ed sauce was created. And that changed the fast food landscape forever. When they thought Mondo Burger was going to take over, they said no. Representing small businesses around the world, going up against a corporate giant. And who was number one? The small business. Good Burger. Ed. They took care of it. And this
turned this into an Academy Award film.
This movie taught us.
Until the second part of the movie, where Mondo Burger wins whatever lawsuit that they're up against, and then they buy out.
Well, that didn't happen in that movie. That happened in an alternate universe. Yes, they clearly tampered with their. We clearly tampered with their supply, which definitely is illegal. But they needed to do it. That they needed to make a statement after they were sent to a mental institution called Demented Hills to live. They said, no, we are beyond this.
I don't remember half of this.
I saw it recently.
I definitely watched this movie more recently, and I still don't remember
this
all the
is
stuff.
Cinema.
This is cinema. Martin Scorsese.
This is true. This is true. There is Good
cinema.
Burger 2 coming out on Thanksgiving weekend on Paramount. I will be watching.
I don't know what the best movie of all time is. That's a hard question. It's also a little subjective. Yeah, it's a little subjective. It's difficult to know, right? But I don't know. I don't want to answer this, man. This is too hard.
My actual answer
I guess I could go with like what? Oh yeah, let's hear your actual answer.
For today. I'm trying to think of the perfect movie. Jaws. Let's go with Jaws.
Right? Isn't it?
Let's go with Jaws. I'll say Jaws is the greatest movie.
That's a very
pure
good
movie of all time. That is a perfect movie. I would say Jaws and Back to the Future. Perfect movies.
Back to the Future. That's another really good one.
I would say Jaws even.
Another good one is, was it Pretty Woman?
I mean, I guess
that's a very, very well done movie.
But if you were going greatest rom-com, Pretty Woman with Julia
rom-coms
Roberts,
are movies.
Pretty Woman.
Yeah, rom-coms are movies, man.
No, hold up. I'm saying if we're talking about the greatest rom-coms, the greatest rom-com is clearly When Harry Met Sally. Pretty Woman's pretty overrated.
Well, my favorite
I wrote it on my letterbox. Follow me on Letterbox, Martin Scorsese. I'm literally pulling it up. What did I say?
About what? About
Pretty Woman.
Pretty
I
Woman?
reviewed it. Yeah, I reviewed it on my letterbox. I saw it recently. What do you have to say, Faces? Greatest movie of all time, where I find my Pretty Woman letterbox, and then we'll wrap it up.
Fuck. I don't even know. Like, there's a lot of stuff that like I really enjoyed that I like. People like, oh, there's you can nitpick everything. Like, I really love The Greatest Showman. I think that's a
It's a
fantastic
good movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I remember
It's
like
no Pretty Woman, but
I don't know if I've seen Pretty Woman.
Pretty Woman's very over. It's not very overrated. It's pretty overrated. It's a good movie. Don't get me
I
wrong.
feel
I like it.
Wow.
I feel like Return of the King is a good answer.
Turn of the King. I don't even know
I
if
can
I
see
know
that.
that one.
Lord of
That's
the Rings.
third
Third Lord of the Rings.
Oh, I've only seen the first one, so I don't know anything about that. But
that's a really good one.
I gave Pretty Woman I gave Pretty Woman a 3.5 out of 5 stars.
I'm gonna make one of these things, and I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 5 stars.
Here's my review. Pretty Woman, what a delightful film. Very charming, fun watch. How can you not get giddy in the last 10 minutes? Julia Roberts fucking amazing. Love how captivating she is while balancing both worlds her character comes from and the world she joins. Heartfelt with emotion. Richard Gere is really good. Where is he at? I hope he works more because he's a good actor. Why did I write this as if I just saw it in 1990? Jason Alexander was a funny dickhead villain too. Satisfying punch in the face at the end for him. I think the screenplay is really good, and I feel this is a movie on social norms and how self-confidence can make or break a person. Maybe I really did. I don't know why I felt like, oh, I really liked it when I first saw it.
Yes, it's a good
The
movie.
film is well directed, very funny.
It's a classic.
The movie puts comfort in comfort watch. And I love her bickering at the rodeo. I loved seeing her bicker at the girl on the rodeo who was a dick to her in the department store. I love the
Rodeo,
soundtrack. Yeah, I was writing this really late. I gotta.
Wow, you're literally, you'd rather, instead of just admit that Pretty Woman's a good movie, you're gonna rewrite your review of
So
it.
why did you only give it 3.5?
I think it was a little too. I'm thinking. So I wrote that right away, and I've rewatched it since. I feel like Pretty Woman, though very good, and I do agree with my review still, but maybe I don't know, maybe a bit over the top. I'd have to let me tell you this. I'll rewatch it and give another review for a proper re-review.
Another good one, by the way, is Jurassic Park. I think.
But when Harry Met Sally really is my favorite rom-com.
And my favorite rom-com is Music and Lyrics, which is nowhere near the best movie of all.
Music and Lyrics.
Yeah, Hugh Grant, Drew Barrymore.
Music and Lyrics.
It's great. I recommend everybody watch it at least twice.
At least twice. It's a musical.
It's a great movie.
Focuses on the relationship that evolves between a former pop music idol and an aspiring writer as she struggles to compose a song for the reigning pop diva. Critical consensus on Rotten Tomatoes at a 63. Music and Lyrics is a light and pleasant romantic comedy that succeeds because of its considerable charm of its co-stars. The music segments featuring Hugh Grant are worth the price of admission alone. Huh.
Yes, he's really funny when he sings his I won't sing it because I don't want to get us in trouble. But there's a song right at the very beginning. It's really funny. No, it's funny. And then, yeah, Jurassic Park, that's a more serious movie, Matt. And I think that you can make the case that that's one of the better movies that have ever been made. The original Jurassic Park.
Right.
So
no doubt, but honestly, watch whatever the hell you want. Or Scorsese's on Letterboxd. That is as gender switching.
I want to see his reviews.
That is as genre changing as it comes. And generational.
I want to see him review all of the Marvel movies on Letterboxd. Every single one.
That's not gonna happen.
I would read that. Oh, come on, that would be so funny.
I'd want to see it, but
if he has a publicist, this is the time to hear what I'm saying and call Martin Scorsese and make him, doesn't even have to watch it. Just have him, without watching any of these movies, give a review. It would be so funny.
The best part
It'd be funnier if you watched them.
The best part is him literally writing as the description. This is cinema. He
It'd
already
be so funny.
I mean, 69. He already put 69 films he likes, and remember, wait, does he have any actual reviews? No, I don't see any reviews somewhere. He just wrote. He made lists. A list called companion films. He followed the Film Foundation, and yeah, that's it. Anyways, regardless,
now you
though,
know what to do.
great work, guys. Hit it all over the board. From talking about the Speaker of the House to talking about where you shouldn't go on a first date. This is what we get on this show. True diversity. Thank you, Fresh Faces. Thank you, Ryan. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, Matt.